Yo, what's good, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another reaction video. We got the Stefon Diggs trade is bigger than you think, man. Let's check this out.
We've spent the last few off seasons talking about the potential of a Stefon Diggs trade, and it's something that felt like it never
What the
actually
hell?
happened, but it finally has. Stefon Diggs was traded by the Bills to the Texans. Buffalo gave up Diggs,
bro, that's still the craziest shit to happen this offseason.
2025 fifth, all for a 2025 second round pick. It's not exactly a big haul, but it's all for a player that hasn't necessarily been happy in his situation and had a really bad end to last season. The Texans did originally inherit that once signed 4-year, $96 million contract that he once signed with Buffalo. Now, there was a potential out after this season with no dead cap, and instead they just stripped the last 3 years from that deal. So after this season, Stefon Diggs is going to be a free agent. So that trade really is essentially just for a 1-year rental now.
That was smart by the Texans, though.
But regardless, that's a lot to give up, and it makes sense that they didn't get a ton in return for Stefon Diggs. It'll still be a lot of money for this upcoming season, but really it's just one of those risks that you can take when you have a lot of salary cap room like the Texans do, thanks to a quarterback that is on a rookie deal. I think this trade makes a ton of sense, really, for both sides. I think you can argue that maybe it just wasn't quite working out well in Buffalo with Stefon Diggs, and now the Bills are able to get rid of him before he really hits that decline and save some money while they're at it. And at worst, the Texans get a good veteran wide receiver who can help CJ Stroud make that leap forward, at least for 1 year. Nico Collins was the #1 last season for Stroud and had a great year. He had about 1,300 yards and 8 touchdowns.
Nico was cold, bro.
And he hadn't had a 500-yard year until Stroud took over. Tank Dell had 700 yards. Dalton Schultz had 600.
Well, Tank Dell would have went over 1,000 yards if he didn't get hurt.
Also had 400. It was really just all over the place, and Stroud did a good job spreading the ball around. Still, I don't really buy Nico as a true #1 receiver, but I do bet he'd be a pretty good 2 or 3. Tank Dell is coming off of a broken leg, and he only played in 11 games, but he had a really
don't be talking shit about my nigga Nico like that, bro. I'm saying he's not a #1. Get the fuck out of here.
Collins and Stefon Diggs, the Texans should look pretty good, especially with CJ Stroud behind center. He already played well as a rookie. Now it should be even easier to make a big jump in year 2 and beyond. Not to mention that Houston went out and traded for Joe Mixon from the Bengals as well.
Their offense is going to be nasty.
I plan on just releasing Mixon, but instead, Houston sent a 7th-round pick over for him. He's coming off of his 4th career 1,000-yard season, and now he can be paired up with Dameon Pierce, who had 900 yards as a rookie, but did lose the starting job to Devin Singletary late last year, who is now just with the Giants. There are
he's with the Giants now.
About the Texans, and now Bobby Slowick is.
I knew he left Houston. I just didn't know what team he went to.
I really thought he'd end up being a head coach, and I even personally wanted him in Washington, but he wanted to go back to Houston. There was unfinished business, and now we get to see how good they could be this season, and Stefon Diggs should just make them even better. I really do love the move for the Texans. It absolutely makes them a better team going forward, especially next season. It also makes some sense for the Bills in a lot of ways, but it definitely doesn't make them better. Stefon Diggs has definitely had his moments of frustrations.
Yeah, being a fucking diva, bro.
Back to just the day before the trade.
Bro, I understand you want the football, but at the end of the day, bro, you gotta learn to share the rock, my nigga. Come on now.
Responded, "You sure?" And now we're gonna find out if Diggs was essential for his success or not. I think it's pretty clear that the Bills wanted to get rid of Stefon Diggs. Since they traded him before June 1st, the Bills have to take his whole dead cap this year. Instead, if it were after June 1st, then it would have been just about $8.8 million in dead cap this season, with the rest coming in 2025. All that just to get a 2nd rounder next year back in return and have to give up some late picks. The big surprise with the Bills trading away Stefon Diggs is really just the reality that they aren't in a very good spot at wide receiver. like at all.
Nope.
Suddenly, the number one
Khalil
wideout
Shakir
in Buffalo
is their number one
Khalil
wideout.
Shakir. He had 600 yards last season in his second year in the pros. As a fifth-round rookie, he had 161 yards, and he clearly made a lot of progress. I think he should continue to just keep getting better, but I really don't like the idea of him being the number one option after trading away Stefon Diggs and having Gabe Davis leave in free agency to Jacksonville. The Bills have at least been filling the wide receiver void a little bit this offseason.
That's why they got the draft to figure out.
$24 million contract. He's coming off of
I think they'll be just fine at the wide receiver position. I feel like because Curtis Samuel's a solid wide receiver, Khalil Shakir has proved show some promise, and then you got the draft this year. I've been seeing a lot of mock drafts saying that they'll take Brian Thomas Jr. or Adonai Mitchell.
There are going to be some options for Josh Allen.
So they definitely do need a big body receiver.
Dalton Kincaid had almost 700 yards and should continue to be a good weapon in his sophomore season. And of course, Dawson Knox is still in Buffalo as well. I have a pretty good feeling that the Bills are going to be looking to draft a wideout at 28. Luckily for them, it's a really good receiver draft, but they aren't going to have a shot at the top guys. Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, and Rome Odunze are probably all going to be off the board. Then it's really just going to depend on who else is still available. Brian Thomas Jr., A.D. Mitchell, Xavier Worthy, Ladd McConkey, and more. There are going
Don't forget
to
about
be
Troy
good
Franklin.
Receivers. I just don't know who of the bunch is actually going to be there at 28. But clearly, the Bills could use another good wide receiver now. It's really a shame because I do think every single time I've turned back around, the Bills have gotten worse this offseason. Buffalo is paying.
They lost
Josh
Trey
Allen
White, they
a lot,
lost
and they've
Jordan
had a lot of
Poyer.
leave simply due to
Like,
money
man.
reasons.
And I understand that White hasn't really been the same because of his injury problems. He's still a top 10, top 15 corner when healthy. Same goes for Jordan Poyer. When he's healthy, he's definitely a top 10, top 15 safety. Like, he's getting older, so I understand why they let him walk.
Just looking at the defense, they
just get younger at the position.
Micah Hyde or Tre'Davious White. You're talking about the once best safety duo in football and a corner who it feels like has been in Buffalo for forever.
Wait, they don't.
Leonard Floyd,
But they don't have Micah Hyde anymore either.
Lost Stefon Diggs with Gabe Davis. Here's the thing, though: the Bills didn't actually want to get rid of those guys, other than Diggs, I'd assume. He has certainly been a classic wide receiver diva. 2 seasons ago ended with him
Dez Bryant 2.0
on the sideline, and then he didn't even do his normal media availability post-game. He then ended up not going to mandatory minicamp either. There were, of course, whispers that he could get traded, but he stuck around in Buffalo. Even with all his drama, he was always a big part of their success and the development of Josh Allen. The Bills traded for him in 2020, and he immediately came in and led the league in receptions and receiving yards. He had well over 1,000 yards in each of his 4 seasons in Buffalo, including last year, which didn't even end great. Diggs had 100 yards in 5 of the first 6 games of the season. He was playing
and then just cooled off.
He didn't have 90 yards in a single game for the rest of the year. Over Buffalo's final 8 games, he had just shy of 350 yards and only 1 touchdown. That just wasn't the same Stefon Diggs we had been used to over the years. And maybe that has a reason for him being traded. He's just always the center of drama, and it looked like he could be traded again this offseason after some pretty odd tweets on March 15th. He tweeted a heart and then ready for whatever. It wasn't immediate, but it eventually did happen. And now we're going to see how he settles down in Houston. We're going to get the Bills coming to Houston to play the Texans this season. So, for a very fun revenge game. And
that's going to be
to
good.
face the Cowboys. So, we could get Stefon Diggs one-on-one with his brother Trayvon Diggs.
Please, yes.
I don't quite know how well this is going to work out for the
I definitely want to. We definitely got to see
Texans.
Stefon Diggs versus Trayvon Diggs, bro. 100%.
1,000-yard receiver next year and should be a very good, reliable weapon for CJ Stroud. Obviously, it does hurt the Bills, at least on paper. But when you think back to all the drama and all the chaos and different rumors, maybe it could be a good thing.
Yeah. Hey, it could though, but man, what do you guys think about the Stefon Diggs trade? I think it's still crazy to think that he's on the Texans now. Stroud is definitely going to pop off again this season. He might win MVP, and the Texans might go to the Super Bowl. And this is coming from a Baltimore Ravens fan. So hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe to the channel if you're new. Turn on my post notifications so you're notified whenever I drop another banger video. We're on the road to 100 subs. We are 7 away by the time I'm recording this. Help me get there for more banger content like this. Without further ado, I'm out. Gang.